everybody, welcome back to my corner of the internet. My name is Lowry, this is Lowry Crafts. Today I am going to do a regular podcast episode because I haven't done one in a while and I have some things to tell you. I've actually got quite a lot to get through, so we're going to go through it hopefully speedily because I would like to go outside and enjoy some sunshine because the sun has appeared. What have I been working on? I have been working on my whips that I took into the new year with me that I'm still working on, and it's now March. Such is life. I have one finished object. I've got a couple of whips that I'm more actively working on at the moment. I have a couple of acquisitions and a future plan to talk you through. So a little bit of everything. So let's get going. My first item is my finished object, and it is... Da-da-da-da! It is my maple sweater. I'm so pleased with this. At some point while I'm talking about this, I will put in some footage of me wearing it so that you can see it. I'm not wearing it today because it's too warm for that. I have so much to say about this sweater. Where do I start? The sweater is called the Maple Sweater. It's by Knitsfordays DK. And I knit this as part of a test knit. I initially finished the body and one of the sleeves for the test knit deadline, and I'd picked up for the other sleeve, but then I just kind of put it on hold for a bit. It is a, let me see if I can give you a slightly better look. It's this cable and rib pattern. It's the same pattern all over the body. It is, I guess, 2x2 rib, alternated with 2x2 cables. So they're really straightforward cables to knit. Didn't need a cable needle. It's a drop shoulder, so you can see that, the drop shoulder there, and the cuffs are all finished with half twisted rib. Where shall I start? Let's start with the yarn. The yarn that I used, now this is silly of me because I don't remember the numbers of anything. The numbers will be in the descriptions, but I used a kind of pale green yarn. I used the Sandnes Garn Line held double, which wasn't initially my intention, but I had to do that to get gauge. I should say actually that I knitted this on a 4.5mm needle, and I think the pattern calls for a 5, and that's pretty typical for me knitting a Knitsfordays pattern. She has a very, very tight gauge. Back to the yarn, that was a small tangent. I used the Sandnes Garn Line held double, and I'll put the colour number in the description, and I used the Isager Alpaca 1 held single. And that was, it made for quite a thick fabric, thicker than I think the original samples knitted in, but I'm quite pleased with that. And it's not itchy for me at all, and it gets me through cold days, so we're happy with that. In terms of the pattern, I really like the way it fits. I really like the texture. I was particularly worried when I finished this object and I cast it off and I tried it on because the body was quite cinched in, and that's obviously because of the texture, because of the cables and the ribbing, but I just wasn't convinced it was going to block out enough. I think it was supposed to have about 15 centimetres of positive ease on my body, and it did not have 15 centimetres of positive ease when I cast this off. But really, I'm quite surprised that when I finished blocking it, it had really grown widthways, and it now fits perfectly. The sleeves don't have any decreases in them, so it's just the pattern maintained all the way down, which means the cuffs are slightly wider than maybe kind of typical jumper sleeve, but I quite like that slightly wider fit. The only thing is it gets in the way slightly when I'm doing the washing up, but I don't mind that. It's not too much of an issue. I really like the half-twisted rib. I have never done half-twisted rib before. but it is so much neater than my regular rib, so I will absolutely be doing this going forward, and in fact I am doing it on another garment. The only thing is, I don't know if I'll be able to show you. You can't really see it when I hold it up, but my Italian bind off on the bottom of the body does lean ever so slightly. It's not enough to really bother me, but it is something that I did notice, and I don't know whether that's because of how tightly I've done the bind off, or really? I don't know whether that's because of how tightly I've done the bind off, or whether it's because of my half twisted rib that it just kind of leans ever so slightly. But it's something I've made a note of in case I do something similar in the future. I really like the drop shoulder. It's not so deep that there's loads of fabric under my armpits, and I really don't like that, so I am pleased with that. And there's quite aggressive short row shaping on the back, which initially I thought might have been too overkill before I'd blocked it. When I blocked it out, it looks great, so I'm really, really pleased with how this fits. I have worn it for a couple of days. It's starting to get that fuzzy halo ever so slightly from the alpaca kind of rubbing up a little bit, but that's to be expected, and I have sensitive skin anyway, so I am willing to do a bit of garment maintenance in order to have garments that I can wear. Otherwise, really enjoying wearing it. I'm very pleased that I have finally finished it. So there you go, that's my finished object. On to works in progress, and these are slightly less exciting, but I'm enjoying working on them nonetheless. This is, what have I just dropped? This is my self-drafted scarf that I have just been knitting in the round with some yarn from my first ever knitting project that I frogged. So there it is. You really can't see, that's a better representation of the colour. It's getting quite long. It is on 4mm needles, knitted with Majo Garn in the colour Anemone in their fine merino. I wanted to use this up, basically. And I have the penny gloves knitted in the same yarn, and I wanted a scarf to match. I've said all this before. The Majo Garn that I'm using, I would say is more of a sport weight than a DK or a fingering weight. It kind of sits awkwardly in the middle. So on the 4mm needles, it is slightly gappy, but I'm not bothered about that because it's double thickness because I'm knitting it in the round. I've broadly used the gauge-ish and dimensions-ish of the Vienna scarf by PetiteKnit, but I haven't bought the pattern. I just kind of referenced what was on the pattern page, just for a little bit of a kind of starting point to bounce off from. And I'm literally just going to knit this until I've run out of yarn, and I think it will be about the dimensions of the Vienna scarf. I just wanted to make sure that it was actually going to be scarf-like by the time that I'd finished, and not an awkward length. What I have left, I have just started a ball. Obviously all of these balls, because it's reclaimed from a project, they're not all the same size, but this is quite a large one, so I've just started working with that ball of yarn, and then I've got 2 hanks that I wound up that I haven't used yet, and this is all that's left. So this, when I weighed it this morning, this is 82 grams, and I didn't weigh the ball that I'm using, but it's quite a lot, I think. So I think this is going to be plenty to get this to a length that is suitable, but it already, I'll try not to drape it around. I look like I'm a boxer wearing a towel into the ring. But it's already pretty long. I'm trying not to knock my microphone. There you go. You can already see that it's getting pretty long. So I think we should be fine. And I think the weight of it, once I've blocked it, will stretch it out even further. I'm kind of enjoying having something mindless that I can just work on in the round in stockinette and have no thoughts whatsoever. So that's my first work in progress. The second work in progress that I am actively working on is my Novice Slipover by PetiteKnit. So this has featured a couple of times on the podcast already, but I've kind of put it on hold a few times to work on other things. Sorry if you can hear clanking needles. I have picked up for the second armhole. So I think since you've last seen this, I completed a bit of length on the body, and when I finished a ball of yarn, I picked up for the neck, and I did the folded collar that is recommended in the pattern. And then I discovered half twisted rib, and that's what I've done on the armholes. So I've done one armhole already, and I've picked up for the other one, and I'm just working on that at the moment. I was slightly concerned that this was going to be too wide. The Novice Slipover has really huge amounts of positive ease, and when I gauge swatched, I was kind of in between with two different needle sizes. So with the 5, which is recommended in the pattern, I believe, I was too tight, small. I had too many stitches. And with the 5.5, I had too few, and I decided to go for the 5.5, and I don't really know why I did that, because it has made for a slightly thinner fabric, and the yarn that I'm using is Gepard Woolia in their navy colour, which is also leftover, so I'm very pleased I'm getting some leftover out of my stash and into use, but it is not a yarn that has huge amounts of structure or durability. So I'm slightly questioning my decision to go for a drapier fabric, but I did try it on last night and I'm actually not that mad about it, so I am going to continue with it as it is. This will be pretty straightforward to finish, it's just not been a priority recently. But now that I have finished my big sweater, I think I will get some progress made on this, get the armhole finished, and then it's just back to the body, back to knitting the round. I've got a couple of balls left of this, so I think I've got plenty left to finish the length of the body, which is currently a few inches below the armhole. So that is my other work in progress. Once I've made some progress with those, I think I will put my Maud sweater by Coco & More Knitwear back on the needles, and I think that will make a really good spring knit, so I'm excited to pick that up again. But I just want to get some things out off my needles, you know, clear the clutter a little bit. In terms of future plans and acquisitions, this is kind of a 2-in-1. Knit the Yarn Shop, KNITT, which I often buy yarn from online. Recently restocked their Sandnes Garn Line, which is one of my favourite yarns ever, and I, perhaps controversially, enjoy summer knitting. Partly because I live in a country that does not get really, really hot in the summer, so I can still knit with wool if I want to. However, they restocked their Sandnes Garn Line, and I bought 2 colourways. I'm going to hold them in front of my face. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see those, so I will put a picture in as well. But I bought one of the popular colourways. Is it called Lavender Rose? Something like that. It's 4632. This is really good for anyone who likes the sort of soft summer colourways, which is me. And then I also bought a darker blue, but a kind of muted darker blue, which is 6061. I can't remember what this one was called, but this I'm really pleased with as well. I bought 5 balls of each, which will be enough for me to get just about any sleeveless summer top out of them. And with one of them, I haven't decided yet, I am going to re-knit a top that I self-drafted 2 years ago. So this is she. She's kind of a sort of drop waist peplum top. And I am going to film the process of re-knitting this. I this is the first time that I'd tried to self-draft anything, so I was learning a new skill. And there's lots of things that I got right in this, but also some fundamental changes that I would like to make. One of them being I knitted this in wool. I think it's either Lamana Como or Lana Gatto, and I never remember which one it is. It's kind of irrelevant at this point, it's wool. I knitted this to a 22 stitch gauge, and I really misjudged the decreases down the side. So briefly, it's sleeveless, it's got a shallow v-neck. I think I want to make that deeper. It's about neutral ease, and I did decreases along the side, and then a small peplum on the bottom. There's some changes that I would like to make to that. I would like to move the peplum waist up so that it actually sits at the narrowest part of my body, because at the moment it doesn't. It kind of sits on my hips, and that makes it all bunch up weirdly, because the narrowest part where the peplum starts is actually too narrow for my hips. I'd like to redo my calculations ever so slightly, narrow the shoulders. There's other things that I would like to do. But I don't think I'm so far off with this that I need to start from scratch. And I wrote myself a pattern actually 2 years ago before I knitted this. And that pattern is still pretty useful, I think. So I bought the Sandnes Garn Line because I know it's a good summer yarn that works for me. I like the drape of it. And I know that on a 3.5mm needle, I will get a 22 stitch gauge with this as well. Because I've knitted and worked with this before to that gauge. So I'm gonna film my process of working on this. I might actually go into town and sit in a coffee shop today and rework the pattern a little bit, sort of recalculate my maths a bit. But if you would like to see that, there will be a video eventually. So that is the other kind of major future plan / acquisition that I have. That is all for today. I'm working on quite a few things at the moment, things in the works that I'm excited about. Excited to get some things cast off my needles, and excited for the weather to get warmer and for the days to get lighter, because I am fed up with winter. If you've already started your spring knitting, or if you're planning to start your spring knitting, please let me know. Tell me what you're planning to knit. I would like some spring knitting inspiration, please. Let me know what you were working on, if you were working on anything whilst you were watching this video, and I will see you again shortly. What else do I have to say? Oh, if you're playing Yarn Chicken this week, I hope you win. I actually did win Yarn Chicken with my maple sweater. This is what I had left, and I had to unravel this from a swatch. So the Yarn Chicken gods were with me, and I hope they are with you too.